Hey guys, it's Saru, and if you didn't know, Lost Ark is coming pretty damn soon, and I've gotten a lot of questions as to why I haven't covered the game whatsoever, including why I haven't even made a video about it, any news about it, or even covered it in my top 15 exciting games. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm also going to give you my first impression reviews here finally for the first time on what I experienced in the tech alpha and the previous playtest before its release in a few weeks. So, let's get right into it. So one thing about me is that I've gotten so used to action MMORPGs where I can just run around, and the top view thing just kind of threw me off at the very initial thing. This game is pretty much like Diablo in the sense of how the camera works, or if you've played the Gauntlet games, which I definitely have, pretty much like that. So when I first tried in the tech alpha, I definitely wasn't impressed, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's talk about when you're starting a game. When you're creating a character and you're selecting your server, I thought it was pretty nice. I liked the overall visuals and it was pretty inviting, but going into the actual character creation of the classes, I did immediately notice that yes, there is kind of gender lock in a lot of ways, and I know that this has already been talked about by Smilegate, which if you don't know what Smilegate is, they are the developers of this game, Lost Ark. But initially, yes, there are already gender locks. So there's the warrior, the mage, the martial artist female, the male version, the gunner male version, and the female version, and the assassin. So in the tech alpha, I actually tried out the assassin. I really did not enjoy it whatsoever. I think that's kind of what threw me off, and I just kind of didn't want to make a video whatsoever. Plus at that time, you know, it was all NDA, so I couldn't record footage anyways, even if I wanted to. However, for the playtest that was available to everyone, I went over with the striker class. I immediately noticed that the character creation was similar to Terra in a lot of ways. Well, mostly because it was pretty much released around the same time or developed around the same time. This game has been supposed to be coming out a long time ago. It's never too late, I guess. But apart from the Terra-esque kind of character creation, it does go a little more into detail into how you want to create your character enough to make it unique. I did wish there was more in-depth character creation features, but overall it was just enough to make it unique, I guess. So as I started the game after this, it allowed you to change your control settings, whether you wanted to attack with your left click or your right click and then move with one or the other, whether the keyboard you wanted to do was one specific way or another, and the basic controls was basically teaching you how to play the game. Overall, you'd have to basically move by clicking unless you used a controller, which didn't work very well. For example, the striker class worked really well with a controller, enough to make it feel almost like an action MMORPG, but I eventually went back to keyboard and mouse because it felt a little more cleaner. I also enjoy the fact that they had a photosensitivity mode, just in case any player that was watching or playing this game had a little bit of issues with that, they could immediately turn it off. Now, when you begin the tutorial of the game itself, one of the things that I was really blown away immediately was the voice acting, but I thought that was just a one-off, and I was wrong. The questing itself, when I went into the game later on, everything that was voiced over by a person was absolutely amazing, and I really enjoyed that, especially in this day and age where you get a lot of games where the voice acting is pretty subpar, but it looks like Smilegate and Amazon Games did not waste any talent whatsoever here. It was absolutely good. So learning my class, of course this was a completely different thing because I don't know how it's going to come out when the actual game comes out. For example, my striker class, I got to try it out and I really enjoyed the way the effects worked, and it was really cool. So I was really interested to see how that would work with mobs. So you can summon monsters and bosses just to try that out, and I did do so. So you get to learn a lot about your class before you want to actually full on end the test and try out the game with that class. But one of the things that I thought was really cool is the action itself, at least on the striker class. I didn't try any other class, which sucks to me as a content creator. I'm sorry about that. I found it very reactive. Like, I felt like there was actually a force behind the punches when I was playing. So that's one thing that I think is really important when you're playing a game, especially an action MMORPG, is if you're punching, it has to have some type of weight behind it. And it did feel that way with this class, and at least in this game. So I felt like I had seen absolutely enough with the character that I had chosen, or the class that I had chosen with its subclass of the striker, and I decided to just go right in and play the game with this class. Questing around the map, I found that it was really, I don't know, it felt a little claustrophobic a little bit, but at the same time it was really open. Every area was hub based, so if you wanted to go into a specific area like this place at the ancient Malduk ruins, this whole map was basically all you had available until you go to another section where you go into another side of the map. So it's pretty old fashioned in that way, and I think it was kind of showing its age in the sense that this game is pretty old, but it does look really nice, but it is pretty old. but I would have liked to see a more open world type of game, especially in this day and age. But overall, I didn't really mind it all too much because, well, I kind of knew what to expect with this type of game, and I had played MMOs like this before. The more and more I got into the questing, the more I realized that the voice acting was really good. I think especially after playing like Swords of Legends Online, which I've been playing quite a bit, it was such a relief to see English voice acting that was really good, like top level. I can't stress it enough, but I also got a taste of beating up a lot of monsters that it really reinforced the fact that I really enjoyed the way the action was being handled in this game and the force that it felt behind every single punch that I was doing and kick. As for the cash shop itself, of course I had to actually try it out and test it out, and I did see that there was quite a bit, especially in a beta or whatever playtest this was being called, and I found a lot of weapon skins, a lot of mounts or pets or whatever, which all has its own little benefit, I guess you can say. What I didn't really enjoy was seeing the fact that the costumes and some of the items overall in this really affected your stats, even if minimalist. I feel like if you really wanted to play at your best in the game in the future, at least, you'd have to end up always being topped up on your cash shop and always being kind of on there. So don't really know if pay to win is really the word here, but they do affect your stats even if it is minimally. And my only fear is that at end game, when there are a lot of players and everyone's playing, it's gonna actually seclude a lot of the community, and only certain members of that community can play if they reach a certain gear score, which probably won't be able to be done, especially with DPS or things of that nature, unless they spend money, which I don't know if that would happen. That'd be an extreme case, but just letting you know there are stats on these things. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will happen for the actual live launch, but considering this is what was shown, at least in the beta, and they don't release the cash shop in a beta unless it's 100% what they're going to release, you know, just keep an eye on that. It is a free-to-play MMO after all, so they usually have to make their money through pay-to-win practices and such, so I'm not going to get into that, but just keep that in mind. I did find the cosmetics pretty cool. It was interesting that you could try things out and you can see your character trying them on. I think a lot of MMOs are forgetting to do that these days, and you don't actually get to see how it looks like, but more and more I think we're seeing it happen and seeing a little preview of what you're actually buying, so it's really cool to see that. One thing that I was really happy not to see was loot boxes, but I don't know if I may have missed that, and I hope that doesn't actually come into this game whatsoever, but again, it is a free-to-play MMO, so keep that in mind. As for the last piece of information, I did notice that there were kind of 30-day type of things going on where you could get more EXP, your life energy would recover a little bit more faster, your things were reduced, your crafting time was reduced, and so on and so forth, and you'd basically be able to buy it for 30 days. That was another little red flag for me, at least personally. I just can't stand it anymore myself. Now, it was really cool to actually walk around the town and see a lot of players and just quest around and just really see them. And it was really cool that I didn't have to hide players. The optimization was really good. Considering the game is pretty old, still, it was very good optimization, that's for sure. I did not lose any FPS whatsoever when I was walking around, or I was fighting, or I was with a group of monsters, especially when I went into a dungeon later on. So doing a dungeon, which I didn't actually end up recording, especially the PvP and everything else, but I just thought I'd let you know. I thought it was really well optimized. It was cool the way the mechanics worked. It was cool to actually feel rewarded, and I could tell that you did have to grind quite a bit if you really wanted to be best in slot. As far as I do know, for the raids, they do get significantly harder, and they become so grindy that it is pretty hard, and it's one of the most attractive features I think in Korea for Lost Ark from what I've heard. But apart from all that, all the pros and cons, I thought it was a really pretty game. I thought the effects were really awesome. I thought the combat was really cool, even though I was biased and I really did not enjoy the fact that it wasn't like 3D action MMO, you know, similar to the Black Desert, Blade and Soul, Terra, and so on and so forth. That was one thing I didn't like, but that was just my own preference. It doesn't mean that it's a bad game. I just, as a preference for myself, I didn't enjoy the fact that I had to look over the character and kind of fight with clicking around and stuff like that. It just felt a little too old school for me, and I felt like we're just kind of past that. Again, preference for me. I'm not like bashing it whatsoever. Now, it is a free-to-play MMO, and it is coming out in North America and Europe and so on and so forth. But the reason why I didn't make a video on it is because, so shortly after I made a video on Elion, which I pretty much like, I think I pretty much call it a pay-to-win cash grab and just to look out. It wasn't really my signature to kind of do, and I really didn't want to be known for that whatsoever. And shortly after that, I started playing a lot of other games and then Lost Ark with the tests. And I think I was just a little down, and I didn't really really want to come off saying, oh, don't play this game. I definitely think you should play the games, try it out. I mean, it's going to be free to play. It's super popular for a reason in Korea, but also keep in mind that cultures are completely different in Korea and Asia in general than it is here. Just like Justice Online is one of the most pay-to-win MMORPGs in China, considering the fact that players have spent almost $2 million and then try to sell their accounts and then try to buy them back for like $10,000. That's how much money like people put into a game. You know there's an issue, but I always have hope when they come into the West that maybe they'll change around, especially with a good publisher that's like trying to persuade them otherwise. But at the end of the day, it always ends up being on the developer side of things, right? So I didn't make the video because quite frankly, I don't think I'm going to be playing this game whatsoever. I might try it out when it comes out. It might be completely different. I saw things like skills and virtues and cards in the game that I didn't really understand. I didn't really want to get into, quite frankly. But just my overall first impressions review of the game was like, I just didn't think it was for me. I think it was a cool game and a cool experience. But I mean, I've played games like MU Online or Mu Online, Ragnarok, Diablo, and I've seen a lot of Path of Exile. It just never was for me, you know? I think especially recently with Albion, and like, I think the one that I actually tried and played quite a bit, I think was Devilian, and then there was another game after that I totally forgot, and then that shut down, and then the private server, and there was a bunch of drama with that, and I completely forgot what it was called, actually. I've been looking it up for the last 10 minutes. Obviously you can't tell because I'm editing here, but yeah, I just never really liked isometric MMORPGs myself, so that's just a preference, and I didn't think I should make a video on it because it's basically just me being like, it's okay, but I'm not gonna play it, and I didn't really want to be on that. But I've been asked quite a lot recently, and I decided that when the game does come out, I will give it a fair shot and then give you guys my full first impressions and game review, and I'll actually go into endgame and then I'll see what I really do think about the game before I make my full opinion. But for now, this is what I thought about the game from the technical alpha, from the previous beta, and the tests that we've had, and my overall first impressions on whether I liked it or not, which I really didn't. But I did find really cool aspects about it that might just bring me back to playing it, and after all, it is free to play, so I'll definitely give it a shot. And hopefully the cash shop isn't as walking on eggshell as I think it is, and might be completely different when it does launch, but we'll see. So what do you guys think about Lost Ark? Are you excited for it? Because, I mean, like I said, for myself, I'm not necessarily, but I will give it a shot for you guys, because I know it's been recommended to me like non-stop. I will give it a shot, but let me know what you guys think and we'll talk about it in the comments below. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and click that adorable fucking bell to know when I upload a brand new video. And don't forget to come join my Discord if you want to chat and hang out. Much love, and as always, till next time, friends.